Well, I'm delighted today to be speaking to Michael O'Kane from New Zealand Bullion Depositary. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you, David. It's lovely to be here.
So, Michael, you joined us for our networking dinner last night here at the L'Horizon. Is it your first trip to this beautiful island of Jersey?
It's my first time in Jersey, and I have to say it's a beautiful place. It does remind me of my home in Auckland, New Zealand, a lot.
Fantastic. So, for those who've not heard of New Zealand Bullion Depository before, perhaps you could tell us a little bit more about the company.
So we're a very bespoke service. We're a precious metals, gold, silver, and platinum storage facility. We work with the ultra high net worth from around the world, and we do one thing, and we do it very well, is we store their assets, their gold, as part of their portfolio, but as an insurance policy for them over a long period of time.
And your clients generally already have an allocation to gold, or in some instances it's newly minted wealth and they're thinking about the asset allocation in a different way? I mean,
it's a mix of the two. The majority of our clients already have an exposure, or at least have come from a place where gold fits in a portfolio quite sensibly. Most of our clients would be looking at, say, 5 to 10% of their portfolio as physical metal. During crises, so the pandemic, GFC, that percentage might increase, but it's not a core part of their day-to-day operational portfolio. We fit in really well, as I say, as an insurance policy. So they see us as something, it's there for a personal crisis or a regional crisis. I'm not a big advocate of end of society type situations, because that's a whole other barrel of fish. We're there to provide them with a security and a good anchor and a diversified geographic position.
So perhaps you could explain why clients want to own physical gold rather than other ways of getting exposure to the asset class.
Physical gold it's quite unique. So globally, it's still classed as a currency. It's a monetary asset. So it fits in a niche where, if you're looking to diversify against, say, US dollars or pounds or Chinese yuan, it fits in there quite well. Ownership's easy to prove as well. So it's very hard to, it's one of those things where if you have physical and it's in a safe, secure location, you don't have to worry about it being allocated to third parties, or if there's
lent
a run
out and you worry about the institution. It's very locked down in terms of what you own.
And that's one of the things that's going on in like the LBMA at the moment, or in other locations in the world, where the allocation of metal isn't quite meeting what has been contracted. And there are questions around that. That's not to say that these places aren't doing it properly. It's just, it's very hard to prove at times. Whereas on a one-to-one basis, where for us, for example, we maintain that the client must be the beneficial owner of the metal, and it's always segregated and allocated, so there's no question about commingling or anything else like that. It's a very straightforward, this is your metal, it's worth this much, you know that, there's no questions about it, and at any time you want to come and pick it up or liquidate it or move it, it's there to do that, it's yours. It's very hard to argue that right.
Okay. For those clients who've decided to invest in physical gold, what kind of criteria do they look at in terms of the storage location and offer in which the counterparties they work with?
Historically, it was primarily Switzerland and London were the key places. Singapore came to its fore in the early 2000s. We fit an area that not many other places can do, which is we're geographically remote. As I say, it's 24 hours for me to get to Jersey on a plane. So our nearest neighbour is Australia. It's a 4-hour flight. We, as a jurisdiction, New Zealand was based off British rule of law. So we have very, very, one of the strongest contract laws in the planet. So from a security perspective, we fit a really good niche that we're away from a lot of the turmoil. And that got proven with what's going on in Eastern Europe. And now with China and Taiwan, we're outside of those areas of concern, so we sit remote from those. From a contracts point perspective, we're very strong, so that makes people comfortable that we are who we are, say we are, and how we contract out. And from a security perspective, we've built a vault that is very unique in the world. It's one of the strongest vaults in the world. And so from a local security perspective, we fit the bill as well.
And what about on the issue of source of wealth?
We're very judicious about who we bring on as clients.
Yeah.
So not everyone that knocks on our door is brought in as a client. We do due diligence on each client to a very high degree. We try to do it better than most places. It's partly to protect ourselves and our existing clients as much as it is to say, we know who you are and where you've come from. So there's aspects of what's going on, particularly, as I say, Eastern Europe. We've avoided regions where it could bring in issues. We're also careful about whether if you're a playboy or a playgirl, we probably would say no, because they bring different levels of exposure that we're not that keen on. So for us, it's very much about being discreet, both for ourselves and for our clients. And it's also very much about being able to deliver the service to our existing client base that they are expecting from us going forward.
And how would you differentiate your offering versus a private bank or another place people would buy physical gold?
Probably the key thing is we're privately owned and in a unique jurisdiction that we don't have any key competitors. So we're very unique where we are. The other thing is, under New Zealand tax law, gold's not classed as a financial asset. It's a commodity. So we're unique in that we aren't doing the same level of outward reporting that other places are required to do, which again, it's about discretion. It's about not advertising who our clients are and keeping things as much as we can at a under the radar and a quiet level.
And what about some of the transaction and storage considerations? I mean, you mentioned that clients want to visit, they can come and see, but how does it look day to day in terms of how you charge for services? What happens when people want to buy and sell? Just walk us through a little journey, if you like.
So we're a little bit unique in the storage world, where if you own metal and you want to bring it to us, we can help bring it to New Zealand. You're not obligated to buy it through us or sell it through us. Once we've established how you want to acquire your metal, if you've already got it, we'll arrange to get it picked up and brought to New Zealand. That's a nice, smooth process. Or we'll purchase it on your behalf, depending on what you're after. Once it's here, we run it through a range of different scans. So we use things like XRF scanners, which is X-ray fluorescence, which means we know exactly what the metal is, what it weighs, and we give all of that information back to you as a client. So you can be comfortable that what we say we're storing is actually what we say we're storing, and Lloyd's, our insurers, can be comfortable that they know exactly what we've got covered. If you want, as I say, if you wanted to come and have a look at it, that's fine. We make an appointment, you come in, it's there, it's yours. If you want to walk out the door with it, that's fine. We're happy to do that.
Do you have a camera on it so that the client can see? Or
we have a lot of cameras on everything.
I can imagine.
It's quite scary how many cameras we have. But it's very much about, from our perspective, it's being transparent to the client. The client has to be comfortable that what we say we do and how we do it and what we're doing it for is exactly what the case is. So everything is about making sure that we're open and transparent to the client, that they can be comfortable that if we say we've got 51 kilo bars of gold for them, that's exactly what we've got. And if they want to come and see it, it's there. If they want to, as I say, if they want to take it away, we've had clients do that. They've turned up and said, that's great, I'll take one with me. It's fine. It's theirs. That's what the whole process is about. It's theirs. We're looking after it for them.
And also, I mean, you travel globally. I mean, you're on a month-long trip here to Europe and the US. So I guess you're dealing with a level of client whereby if they say, I want to see you, you come and you're on the plane. You know, it's very tailored, you know?
We've targeted the ultra-high net worth. So as I say, we're privately owned and the owners are in that sphere. So for them, it's about providing a service to other people who are like-minded. And at the end of the day, it's all about the service. So, you could go to Singapore and go find a secure facility, but you're not going to get the same quality of service that we're offering.
Yeah.
And the being a trust-based industry, because that's what it is at the end of the day. If you can't trust the people storing your metal, I'd recommend not storing it with them. It means that we need to be available to say, here we are, and pre-COVID, one of our policies was to have the client come and visit us so that they could see our facility, understand what we do and how we do it, and be comfortable that when they went away, that we were looking after their property to the best of anyone's ability.
And we were discussing earlier that because of the level of client you're working with, you often work with intermediaries on a discrete basis, in a sense of if there's a tax advisor, an accountant, a lawyer who's the key advisor of the family, they're a great contact for you because they might call you up when something is needed. But perhaps you could give us a little description of the kind of intermediaries you work with, both in New Zealand but also internationally. What kind of contacts really fit well with what you're doing?
So on a day-to-day operational level, we use freight companies. So we use specialized freight companies that move valuables around the world. And COVID was a great example. We were moving metal in and out of New Zealand frequently enough that it became a sort of a standard daily operation, even when people couldn't come into the country. So having the ability to move metal around the world is key for what we do. On a regional and local perspective, we use some of the big four accounting firms. So even before we built our facility, I got to spend a year with PwC and one of the large legal firms in New Zealand, just looking at the financial regulations, the accounting and taxation regulations, and the audit and controls to make sure that we had everything in place, built that base level before we even started building the facility. And that's expanded over the years so that we have within New Zealand, we have a network that we can call on to help both ourselves and our clients. And we've referred clients to different organizations depending on their requirements. I've got networks building in different jurisdictions around the world along the same lines.
Yeah.
And for us, it's about making sure that we're protecting their assets, but it's also making sure the client gets the service levels they require.
And in terms of relocation into New Zealand, I mean, the offering there is a very premium, high-end kind of relocation offering.
Yeah.
How does the gold piece fit within that, within clients looking to
Ironically,
relocate?
it doesn't.
Right.
So gold, as I say, gold in New Zealand is not classed as a financial asset.
Yeah.
And so the regulations for wealth migration into New Zealand require financial investment into the economy.
Right.
The flip side is we provide a service outside of that, which a lot of people like. So it gives them a physical, tangible asset within the country. In New Zealand, you can't purchase real estate unless you're a tax resident or you go through a process. We provide an alternative to real estate, being a physical asset, hard asset, in the jurisdiction that's easy to get in, it's easy to get out, and it's liquid at all times. So it's sort of a corollary to the whole wealth migration aspect. But we fit in there just as an outlier rather than part of the key investment portfolio.
Okay, very interesting. And you're thinking about coming along to some of our events later in the year in New York or Miami in the US market. I mean, perhaps tell us more what you've got planned for travel later through the rest of the year.
So yeah, my years tend to get, pre-COVID, my years would be multiple trips a year to a jurisdiction, say Europe.
Yeah.
And I'd do a tour of Europe, meeting with private client lawyers and tax accountants and clients. This is my first long trip in 3 years, hence the whistle-stop tour of most of the major nations around.
Yeah.
In the coming, we'll say months, but at least this year, there'll be a trip up to Europe again, into the US in possibly October. We're looking at doing something similar again in February next year. One of the good things is the directors for the company, some of them are based in North America, And so I get to travel with them and visit with different groups with them, which is a good way for me to get exposure to how they work, and a good way for us as an organisation to expand as well.
Well, Michael, terrific to see you today. Thank you for recording this conversation, and look forward to seeing you on the road with us later in the year.
Cheers.
The latest technical content delivered through global conversations with professionals for professionals.